We're going to prioritize our key trading
So the United States will impose a 25% tariff on goods imported from India.
Good morning, and welcome to our special report on the latest from Washington. President Donald Trump has been dominating headlines this week, with a series of bold moves on both the domestic and international stage. From a hardline stance on the war in Ukraine to a new wave of tariffs aimed at reshaping global trade, and even the revival of a classic health initiative, we're going to break down the positive and negative implications of each decision. Ukraine, Russia, and the geopolitical chessboard. We begin with the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, where a new wave of Russian attacks on Kyiv has left dozens dead or injured. Russia's actions come just as President Trump has escalated his rhetoric and imposed a new deadline on Vladimir Putin to agree to a ceasefire. The videos we're analyzing today report that Trump called Russia's actions disgusting and very sad, and stated that while the conflict is Biden's war, he would try to get it stopped. This marks his third such deadline, with previous ones in late May and mid-July. This latest ultimatum gives Putin only 10 to 12 days to comply or face severe tariffs and secondary sanctions. To facilitate this, Trump announced his envoy, Steve Witkoff, will visit Russia after a trip to Israel and Gaza. Now, let's move beyond the headlines and into the analysis. From a positive perspective, proponents of this strategy would argue that this is a classic display of Trump's America First foreign policy in action. By setting firm deadlines and backing them up with the threat of economic sanctions, he is attempting to force a resolution to a conflict that has dragged on for years. This approach is designed to be decisive and bypass traditional, slow-moving diplomatic channels that he and his supporters see as ineffective. The decision to send a personal envoy, rather than relying on the State Department, can be seen as an effort to cut through red tape and open a direct channel of communication. This shows a hands-on, results-oriented leadership style. By calling it Biden's war, Trump is signaling a clear break from past policy, asserting that he will not tolerate a protracted conflict and is willing to use economic levers to bring about peace, even if it means alienating some traditional allies in the process. On the other hand, critics are calling this a dangerous and potentially destabilizing approach to a highly complex geopolitical issue. The Russian government, through its former president Dmitry Medvedev, has already branded Trump's ultimatum as a threat and a step towards war, not with Ukraine, but with the United States itself. The use of ultimatums and deadlines in international diplomacy can backfire. It risks cornering a powerful adversary like Russia, potentially leading to escalation rather than de-escalation. Furthermore, while the threat of sanctions is a powerful tool, Trump's own expressed doubts about their effectiveness raise questions about the seriousness of his strategy. This kind of will he or won't he approach can erode credibility and make it harder for the U.S. to build lasting alliances or lead a unified international front. The fact that the attacks on Kyiv occurred after his initial deadlines were issued suggests that Russia is not intimidated by the threats, making them seem more like empty rhetoric than a credible deterrent. Tariffs, trade wars, and the global economy. In another significant move, President Trump has been actively implementing his trade agenda, which has already sent ripples across the globe. Our sources confirm that Trump's administration has been in contact with nearly 200 countries regarding his new tariff framework. The videos highlight that he's imposing new tariffs on dozens of countries, including a specific 25% tariff on India for its trade with Russia. The Indian government has publicly responded by reiterating its commitment to a mutually beneficial trade agreement with the U.S., but the threat remains. The logistics of the tariffs were formalized via an executive order that the president signed this week. This brings us to the core of our analysis. From a positive standpoint, the tariffs are viewed by supporters as a necessary and long overdue step to rebalance global trade in favor of the United States. This is a central tenet of his America First platform. The goal is to punish countries like India for what Trump sees as supporting U.S. adversaries, while also pressuring them into more favorable trade agreements with the U.S. By using tariffs as a weapon, the administration is seeking to protect domestic manufacturing, create leverage in negotiations, and ultimately bring jobs and wealth back to American shores. The thinking is that foreign countries will bend to these pressures rather than face the economic fallout of being locked out of the U.S. market. The fact that the administration claims to have reached tailor-made deals with 2/3 of the targeted countries suggests that this strategy is, at least in some cases, proving effective. Conversely, many economists and political analysts view these tariffs as a dangerous gamble that could lead to a global trade war, harming not only foreign economies, but also American consumers and businesses. A new analysis from the Washington Center for Equitable Growth, mentioned in some of our research, suggests that these tariffs could increase factory costs in the U.S. by 2% to 4.5%. This is a direct hit to the domestic manufacturing sector that the tariffs are ostensibly trying to protect. Furthermore, the tariffs on countries like India could push them closer to rivals like Russia and China, undermining American diplomatic efforts and weakening global alliances. It's a high-risk strategy that prioritizes short-term political gains over long-term economic stability. The reliance on broad executive orders and a general lack of a coordinated international effort have also been criticized for creating uncertainty and market volatility. Domestic policy and the Trump presidency. Host. While the world watches his foreign policy moves, President Trump has also been busy at home. We've seen 2 recent announcements that reveal his domestic priorities and leadership style. First, the Trump administration is launching a new private health tracking system in collaboration with major tech companies. The goal is to make it easier for Americans to access and share their health data. The president stated that the current systems are slow, costly, and incompatible, and this new initiative is a major step to bring healthcare into the digital age. This follows a less ambitious effort during his first term that did not get finalized. Second, the president signed an executive order to bring back the presidential fitness test, which he says will help motivate kids. Host. Supporters of the health tracking system would argue that this is a smart, modernizing reform that puts patients in control of their own medical records. The involvement of tech giants like Google and Amazon could streamline a notoriously inefficient and fragmented healthcare system, leading to better patient care and more efficient data management. This is seen as a positive step towards empowering individuals and making healthcare more accessible and user-friendly. The revival of the presidential fitness test is a move that resonates with a nostalgic vision of American values and physical health. For many, it's a simple, non-controversial way to encourage healthy living and combat childhood obesity. It's a policy that focuses on personal responsibility and national well-being, which are themes that have consistently appealed to his base. Host. On the other hand, both of these policies have their critics. The health tracking system, while promising, raises serious privacy and data security concerns. The idea of tech companies having access to sensitive personal health data is a non-starter for many privacy advocates. There are legitimate fears about who would have access to this information, how it would be used, and whether it could be vulnerable to cyber attacks. As for the presidential fitness test, critics might see it as a distraction from more pressing national issues. They may argue that it's a throwback to a bygone era and does not address the root causes of health and wellness challenges in a meaningful way. It's a symbolic gesture that may be politically popular but has little practical impact on the systemic problems in our public health system. Conclusion. In summary, this week has shown us a president who is not afraid to challenge the status quo, both at home and abroad. His actions on Ukraine and trade are consistent with a political philosophy that prioritizes American strength and interests above all else. His domestic policies, while less dramatic, also reflect a desire to reform institutions and promote a certain vision of American life. Whether you see these moves as a necessary course correction or a dangerous step into an unpredictable future, there is no doubt that President Trump is once again a central and polarizing figure on the world stage. Thank you for joining us. And don't forget to subscribe.